Hey, folks, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and thank you for tuning in to episode 57 of Talk4, the quickfire podcast where we ask four great questions to unique and interesting people. I am your host for today, Louis Skupien, and let me introduce our incredibly special guest for today, David Marquet, former submarine commander of the USS Santa Fe. David, can you just give us a quick introduction, say hi to these fantastic people listening, and yeah, just tell us a bit about you.
Hey, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining in. Yeah, I used to think I knew about leadership, and I was getting promoted in the Navy and made a submarine commander based on being a strong leader. But then I ran into a situation where I realized actually I didn't know anything about leadership, and I had to start all over and learn what it really meant before we
Mm.
had some really amazing results.
Wow. I mean, I've done my research on you, and you are such a fascinating guy. Now, let me tell you a little story. So, when I first started this podcast, I had like a list of the kind of people who I want to come on. And, it goes from astronauts to Navy SEALs. And I was not specific about the submarine thing. I just wanted someone who was on a submarine, didn't matter the role. Um, and obviously, I reached out to you with no expectations. And then the commander of a submarine comes back to me on this, and I am just so excited about the whole thing. So guys, you can't tell me I don't get the cool people on for you to listen to. But yeah, David, I cannot wait to pick this fantastic brain of yours. So if you're ready to go, should we get on with question number one?
Yeah, let's go. They're all a surprise for me.
Fantastic. Let's do it. Right then. So for my first question, then, tell us about your background then and how you became a submarine commander and what was your motivation to join the Navy? And also why subs then? Was there a particular interest there in the water?
Is that all four questions?
That's true. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
um, yeah, so I grew up in the 70s in the United States, which was a dismal time. We had inflation, we had Iran hostage crisis, we were in the Cold War with the Soviet Union, and there was this malaise. Anyway, I really felt passionately about what liberal democracy stood for, and I wanted to do my part. I was this kind of a geeky, introverted kid on the math team. Well, if that's the kind of personality you have and you want to join the military, there's one place to go: submarines, because submarines hide from people. And I said, that's for me. And it's kind of the cerebral. You don't. There's nothing visual. You don't see. You don't look out and see the enemy. You do a little bit on the periscope, but 99% of it, you're underwater. Everything's in your head,
Hmm.
looking at representations of the world. And you got to make sense of all that. And that really appealed to me. And the submarine force, those were the cool guys. They'd done amazing things in World War II, and they were the cool guys during the Cold War. And I wanted to do my part. So I said, I'm going to go be a submarine commander. And sure enough, it came true.
It sure did. And what a career. And doing the reading up and everything, it's become clear that you did a fantastic job. And so for my second question, I want to ask you about this, just something that interests me as well. So I've read up that you turned the USS Santa Fe from the worst performer to the first performer in your time there. Can you please explain to me and the listeners how a submarine's performance is actually gauged and ranked, and what are the factors that contribute to that? And leading on from that, can you please tell us about how you're able to do this and what did you implement, quote unquote, to turn the ship around?
Yeah, well, a submarine, like any organization, we compare it to the other submarines. We get inspected frequently. So we get inspection grades. We also we can measure things like how often does our equipment break? Um, how often does the ship get underway on time? If we're supposed to get underway at noon on Wednesday, do we get underway at noon on Wednesday?
Mm.
So it's like an airline where you can measure on time departure time. And but we also measure the mistakes that the crew makes. Now on a nuclear submarine, we are incredibly picky. Like things that for you might not be a mistake, for us are mistakes. For example,
Mm.
let's say a light switch that's wired backwards, but everyone knows you just flick it this way to make it go on. we wouldn't put up with that. So that's an error. And so we measure all those things. So what happened was I was really good at telling people what to do. The Navy's definition of leadership is you make good decisions, you know the right answer, and you get the team to do it. And this sort of this driving forward, making it happen, and being right. And on the strength of that, I was promoted, and became a submarine commander. I was supposed to go to a different ship. And at the very last minute, they said, no, you're going to go to the Santa Fe, as you said. It was the worst ship in the fleet. The captain had quit, and it was a different ship than I was trained for. So I show up with a background where the crew expects the captain to have the answers and tell them what to do. But the captain doesn't have the answers. I don't know the ship because it's one of the newest ships in the fleet. I'd never been on this kind of ship. So I knew we had to do something different. And basically, I made a vow never to give them an order. And it's very hard to imagine. You can't watch a movie where you see the person on top just never gives orders. Now, I had a lot of control over the structure of how we communicated, which is where I focused my effort. But I would say over and over again, when they came to me and said, tell me what to do, I would just refuse to tell them what to do. Right. And the same crew, we didn't fire anyone. The problem was when you tell people what to do, you give them a get out of jail pass. It says, please don't bother thinking because I'm going to do the thinking for you. This is the most pernicious thing that happens in organizations. We think we're doing the right thing. We think we're driving the organization forward. We think we're getting stuff done, and we see all these great temporary results. Then we move on. Things go back the way they were. Who knows what happens? We got a situation here in the United States where Bob Iger, who was the CEO of Disney, he was supposed to retire. He was there for like 15 years. He was supposed to retire multiple times. Couldn't. They need him too much. Finally retired. His handpicked replacement, that he basically undermined him, and he gets invited back a year later to, quote, fix Disney. This is terrible. It's terrible leadership. You mean of all the people working at Disney, no one can run it but you? You had all that time to convey whatever genius quote you had into the organization, and you couldn't do it? It's not that complicated. It's not a nuclear power plant. It's movies and entertainment and theme parks. It's a brand that's already built. Like basically all you can do is mess it up. Now, that may be an oversimplification, probably is, but the idea that you can't leave, they need you, the human, this is a symptom of terrible, terrible, egotistical, personality-driven leadership, and it pisses me off when I see it. Because the people think, oh, I want to be like that guy, make millions of dollars. It's terrible leadership, because what about like the other 20,000 people working at Disney? Who are they? Just a bunch of chums? No, but they're not running the organization in a way that develops leaders. That's the problem.
I totally agree. And well, I run my own business, and I've known a lot of people who run businesses. And I think what you said there really resonates with me too, because when you do all the thinking for someone else, you're just kind of using them as a tool, almost just to kind of do these things for you. But what you really want to do is you want to grow these people and make them capable of making their own decisions, so that they improve through the system and then they can make these decisions for themselves, and they can actually start to almost, you can leave them to it and give them that trust, and then they have the accountability. And that's so important, especially in sports as well. That's one thing I've found, like the accountability side of things, so important. But so just tell me about this then. So you're people who are in the submarine, how do you actually handle the obvious challenges of living in such a confined space for such extended periods of time? Like, how do you manage that?
We on the Santa Fe, we had a lot of days. Most organizations have lots of days. We had theys by rank. So the officers were theys to the enlisted men, and the enlisted men were they to the officer. We would say, well, they did this. And then we have theys by department. Engineering is a they to weapons and operations is a they to engineering. Well, they did this.
Mm.
And so we had a rule on Santa Fe, which was no they on Santa Fe, which rhymed. So that was convenient.
That works.
And we had to use the word we. Now, submarines tend to be pretty good teams, but it's kind of it's like a team of teams, not one big team. But there's only 140 people. So you can make 140 people one team.
Mm.
You can make them like a crew of 8 pulling simultaneously. But it wasn't like that. So we said no they on Santa Fe. So people would have to say, oh, well, we didn't order the right part. Or, oh, well, we didn't prepare properly. We. And then it became one team. And when I looked at of different ranks, someone in a different department, my brain over those months rewired itself, and it felt like a we.
Mm.
We act our way to new thinking. This is a thing where I think most organizations get wrong, which is when we go do a change, we say, oh, we're going to change mindset, and then something magic will happen. I'm not sure what. And then the organization will be different. This is not the way it works. You have to find something physical that represents what you want the new mindset to be, and then you just practice one little tiny part of that, and you get that right, and then you practice the second part, and you get that right, and you practice the third, and pretty soon, 6 months later, you are an empowered mindset. You are an empowered organization. You are a collaborative organization. You are a inclusive, or whatever it is, but it doesn't happen from changing mindsets. The mindset change happens by becoming it. So that's number one. Number two is we assume good intent. It's crowded. People are tired. We're walking down the passageway. We're always in a rush. We bump into someone. What are you doing? No, we actually are sharing beds. Some of the sailors start out sharing the same bed. They have to take turns. We always assume, the one rule is assume good intent. Assume the other person they're not trying to screw you. They just accidentally bumped into you. They didn't see you. Just assume that. And give the other person the benefit of the doubt over and over and over and over and over again, even when it doesn't seem like they deserve it, over and over and over and over again. But when everyone does that, all those little things just don't mean anything. And we can disagree. We can argue fiercely about, well, we should have this kind of torpedo, not that, or we should load missiles, not torpedoes, or we should go north fast. No, we should go south slowly. We can argue about that. But even in those conversations, when we're arguing, I know in my head, you're saying what you're saying because you think that's what's going to keep us alive and put the enemy on the bottom. Not because it's wrong. That's just my opinion. Because we don't know the future, so we don't necessarily, it might not even be wrong. We don't know. It's just right now, I think we should go north. You think we should go south. So then you become curious. Oh, tell me about that. What do you see? And we assume good intent. So use the word we and assume good intent.
Great advice. Tell you what, actually, this has sparked a little something for me. So before the podcast, I was really curious to ask this. I was thinking about it for a while, and this really leads on kind of nicely from what you just said. So I'm just interested, do arguments ever actually break out? Because, there's some people, they just don't get on, and people can sometimes really push other people's buttons, So I'm just interested, like, do arguments ever break out on the sub? And if they do, how do you handle those sorts of situations? And I mean, you're all so tightly packed into this kind of a tin can sort of thing. So, I mean, I can imagine things could get really awkward down there. Or is the team bond literally that strong that just doesn't happen?
Yeah, you got 140 people. Every once in a while, someone acts like a jerk and isn't really getting it. we we had a couple unfortunate situations,
Oh,
but it was incredibly rare. It would be incredibly rare for an actual fight to happen. When I was the captain, I had a guy come up to me and say he was complaining about his boss, his chief,
mm,
and say, "Oh, my boss is a jerk. He doesn't really listen very well, and to my great ideas, and blah 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 blah." And I said, "Oh yeah, yeah, you're probably right." And and he tells me what to do, and he doesn't really give me that much help, and blah blah. And and I said, "Yeah, you're probably right." And blah blah. And I said, "Yeah, you're probably right. Now go back, now go back to work." Well, weren't you going to do anything? No. If you want to talk to him, fine. You talk to him. I'm not here to fix, like, I'm not your babysitter or your mom. I'm not going to go fix your problems. No, go back, get along, do your job. If you mollycoddle those people, you're just going to get a whole bunch more people coming up. Oh, let me talk to the captain and express my grievances. I don't care. Yeah, I had crappy bosses too. Go back and do. If you want to talk to them, fine. Now, offline, secretly, might I watch the person or have someone else maybe talk to them? Yeah, but sometimes we have good days, sometimes we have bad days. The bottom line is we all signed up to do our job. So go do your job.
good point. It's very true. Bit of submarine trivia for you there.
Yeah,
I
I mean
love it.
it's hard. It's hard. It's not. It's not what they. A lot of HR departments. That's not how they'd want you to handle it. But it
Yeah.
worked for me because I never had too many people complaining.
Well, that's a good thing, and that's always a sign of doing a good job. But right, so after your time in the Navy, then, so you've clearly had a lot of success in the business world as well. You've written a fantastic looking book as well. Have you noticed differences in the dynamics of your leadership strategies in workplaces and environments that aren't tightly packed and isolated, like in the Santa Fe? And after that, what are some of your top tips that business owners, sports teams, and similar can take away and start to apply?
Yeah. So first of all, 90. There's humans in the military. There's humans in business. A lot of businesses want to think, oh, we're so much different. We're not hierarchical. This is the biggest load of crap I've ever heard. Of course, they're hierarchical. They have humans, which are mammals. They're innately hierarchical. We know that he's the founder and he or she has 85% of the. Everybody knows that.
Absolutely.
And so of course there's hierarchy, and denying it is just sort of living in a fantasy land. But there are some differences. Number one, on the submarine, a submarine does not partially sink, or like half of it doesn't sink. Either it all sinks and we all die, or it comes back and we all live.
Mm.
There's only extremely rare occasions when hasn't been the case throughout history. As a result, there's a true cost to being a solo player on a submarine because you're not going to win. And so that builds some good behaviors. In businesses, I see a lot of people are playing for themselves. They'll pretend to be playing for the organization, but they're playing for themselves. They're building their own brand. And they're looking for another opportunity. And they view this particular job as a stepping stone to something else. And so they're not giving 100% to the organization. And I think they're shortchanging them. They're obviously shortchanging the organization. They're shortchanging other people, but I think they're shortchanging themselves. Because everyone knows, oh, that guy's in it for himself. And you're never going to be the CEO of that organization if that's what your behavior is like. And you may jump ship and get a big job somewhere else, but then you're going to jump ship and get some other job. And at the end of the day, you're going to be looking back to all these jump ships. And I'm not that smart. I can't figure out those politics. So wherever I went, I just was all in.
Mm.
Uh, and, it, I, and I think, and even in retrospect, it probably someone else smarter could have played political game that would have been better for them, but that wasn't me. I was just going to be all in, loyal to my boss, do whatever I needed to do to support the mission and the people. And I had an attitude which I call care, don't care. I didn't care about any kind of a Pentagon job. I just wanted to run. I wanted to be in the fleet. I wanted to be with the sailors. I want to drive submarines, be a Commodore, maybe. But really, and so when I got to be a submarine commander, I didn't care about impressing anybody. I just said, we're going to be the best submarine there is. I care deeply and passionately about my team and my mission. But since I didn't care, I didn't have this social comparison. I didn't have worries about any. I didn't have time for that. I didn't have any energy for that. As a result, I was able to be the very best possible submarine commander I think I could have ever been, because I wasn't doing things for show or things that look good. I just did things that were good. And I think that's the only way you can live your life, in my opinion.
It's true. It's a really, really good example because it's so true. It's like you're all in this thing. You've all got this mission. You all have to rely on each other, and it's like you've got each other's back kind of thing. But in business, in the business world, like you said, everyone's very kind of personal and individual, and they've all got their own agendas and everything. And I'm just interested then. So like, because that's a people problem, but it is a very real problem for the businesses and stuff. So I'm just interested, like, how do you actually kind of correct that? So if you're a business and you're experiencing this, how do you actually sort of change the people, or how do you change your system so that they do actually care almost in like a team way about the company and the organization, like it would be on a submarine, for example? I mean, how do you fix that?
I think it's really hard. I think, first of all, a lot of people have a right to be in it for themselves because their leadership has been terrible. Their leadership is in it for themselves. So if the
Mm.
leadership is in it for themselves, what do you think is going to happen? My sister's a doctor. She worked for an organization out in Seattle. When COVID came, they were asking she's a frontline doctor in a clinic that sees patients walking in the door with sick, not sick, maybe sick.
Mm.
So she and her team had to deal with all this. They got pay cuts because a lot of the for pay things that the medical organization would normally do went away because all those procedures got canceled, and seeing people with COVID wasn't as lucrative. So they got pay cuts, but the corporate executives of that corporation gave themselves bonuses. And a lot of people quit.
Mm.
And I would too. I think it's terrible behavior. So it's easy to say, take care of your people. The question is, what are you going to do? If people in your team wake up every morning and say, oh my gosh, all my boss cares about is making my life as good as possible for me. Now, I'm not saying like hand out freebies and let people do whatever they want. That's actually not the best for them. But if you deep down love them, which means helping them have the best life for them. And when you go and say, hey, you kind of screwed that up, they don't get upset because they know it's all in the context of you actually care. I would do one of the things that we could do. There wasn't much you can do in the military to help your guys,
Mm.
but you can get them promoted. When they get promoted, they get raises. And then they have an opportunity to get another raise. And the faster they get promoted, the faster they go. Their income goes like this as opposed to this, and over time that adds up to a lot. So I worked super hard to get my guys promoted, which meant giving them time to study for the promotion exams. And it meant, first of all, convincing them that they actually could control their destiny and that they could do better. And I had statistics, and I would show them that each guy, when the Navy does a pretty good job when your guys take the exam. As the captain, I would get this report. I would get to everybody's score, not just overall, but for each little section. And we could plot it by individual and by the ship. Say, you know what? Our guys aren't doing very good in radar. Well, submarine radar is not that important. We only have one little crappy radar, and we hardly ever use it. So we could send our guys over to the surface, to the destroyer, and say, go make friends with those guys. We'll give them lunch on a submarine, whatever. Spend 2 hours, learn about their radar. And then the crew, the Santa Fe guys, compete against all the other submarines, also now do better because they know more about, they get promoted, they come back, they say, Captain, thank you. The families are happy. They get promoted again. And they care. And then when you say to a guy, hey, you didn't do a very good job there, you don't have to couch it in protected language, because they already know that. And it doesn't feel bad. I mean, they feel bad, but saying it doesn't make it feel bad, because they know you're in it to win it for them.
That's such good advice. So good. And I tell you what, one of the things I've noticed as well is when my friends have helped me with something in the past, it's the quality of it, even if they weren't as experienced as someone who is technically supposed to do a better job, the effort and the attention put into that stuff is just so much better. But that goes for the business owners. That's one thing I would say, is just show some empathy and really care about your team. And then that just comes back to you, and it comes back in the quality of the work. And it's true, isn't it? And then that's where the sort of the loyalty, that's where it comes back into it. And when you start to create this really healthy ecosystem and team that's all really supporting each other and really cares about one another, why would they want to leave that if they're getting paid to do something they love with the people that are taking care of them and making their lives better? That's such an important thing. But I'll tell you what, this leads really well to the last question as well. So for the people who are currently in the bad situation, so for people who are not naturally good leaders, or people who have tried and do not have a good relationship with their team and don't know what the first step is to kind of recovering from that, how can these people rescue the situation? What is the best way to actually approach and have that conversation with your team about making changes and get them back on board to actually start working together productively again? What's the procedure for that?
Well, first of all, you have to really, really care. Nothing's going to work if you don't really care about them and what you're trying to do. But let's assume that's the case. Any change is scary, and you have to make it feel safe for you and for them. It's a partnership, because if it's too scary for you, you won't do it. If it's too scary for them, they won't do it. So whatever the change is, so for me, the fundamental change was to stop telling people what to do, and for them to start telling me, stop getting permission. First of all, that's your most, I'd say 99.9% of organizations on the planet are what I call permission-based organizations. Permission was a structure invented in the industrial age to prevent things from happening. Why? It's a design. That's the whole point of permission. I need permission to do something. So organizations get frustrated, and then they'll sort of, every once in a while, someone will say, well, I'll just do it. Okay, well, that's also bad, because now I'm doing things without rich feedback before it happens. It happens after it happens. Oh, we uploaded We updated the software. We uploaded it to the server yesterday. Oh my, yeah, really? Wasn't ready. So that's why we would say, for us, it was intent. That was the magic word. So we were changing our habits, and we were changing them from a certain kind of words that we say to different kind of words. So we would say, I intend to, rather than like permission to. Or when someone said something that seemed wrong to me, rather than me explaining why it was wrong, I would be curious and ask a question. Oh, tell me more about that. Not why would you think such a stupid thing, but oh, maybe I'm the one who's wrong. So when you're changing habits, when you're getting people, say, to speak up in a meeting where before they would be quiet, you have to make it safe. Two things make it safe. One, choice. Two, small. So always give them choice. I pull my hair out when I see organizations order empowerment programs. And I just say, you guys don't see the hypocrisy? You can't, like, it's an empowerment program and you're ordering people to do it. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
So that's number one. And small. So we always start with a very, very small thing. So for example, let's say you're not a runner, but you want to start running. Obviously you're not going to run a marathon tomorrow, but I wouldn't even run tomorrow. All I would do is say, for 5 days in a row, I'm going to put my running shoes next to my bed when I go to bed, and I'm going to go to bed at 10 o'clock. I'm going to control my bedtime. That's all I'm going to do. Then you do that for 5 days. Then you say, okay, now when I get up, I'm going to go to bed at 10 o'clock. And when I get up at 6 o'clock, I'm going to put on my running shoes. Do that for 5 days. Then start walking. And you'll be like, oh, I'm walking, I might as well start. You see what I'm saying? So the point is, with change, you got to take it really small. That may seem frustrating. Oh, gee, I might as well, why am I not running? This program makes no sense. But the point is not to be running tomorrow. The point is to be running a year from now, and 2 years from now, and 5 years from now, and running, and it's still running, to build it into the DNA of the way you live your life. Not have anyone could be a runner for one day or go on a run. That's not running. Then you're not a runner. You want to become a runner. So let it seep in slowly. Let it build up. Let it get stronger. And then you're building these layers on top of each other. Every year I said about, I said, I got to change the habit every year. I got to learn something new. Last year for me was Latin.
Wow.
I went through the Duolingo Latin course.
How hard was that?
It's not that hard.
Really?
You just have to do it.
Yeah, it's true.
It's a very basic Latin course. And I probably couldn't even order a bagel in ancient Rome, but it doesn't matter. I mean, I went, I don't care what you change. I've had lots of people talk about, well, I'm going to wake up when the alarm goes off. I'm not going to hit the snooze anymore. That's my habit. Fine. That's great. It's amazing. I'm going to read different books, or I'm going to read, or whatever. I don't care. I'm going to learn to kite surf. So at work, it's the same. These things, the language we speak has been deeply programmed from way back when, and it's a legacy of this industrial age, and it's got to change. And so it's going to take some time. Imagine playing a musical instrument. How long was it going to take to become proficient in a musical instrument? Well, if you want a new way of interacting at work, it's going to take about as long as learn how to become proficient at playing a musical instrument.
So true. Actually, you speaking there reminded me of something that I've seen in the past as well. So there was this guy who, this physical trainer who had kind of like an overweight client who wanted to obviously get in really good shape. And instead of asking him to come in for like an hour session every day or something. They literally got him into the gym for a 6 minute session every single day. And that seemed like such an almost like it wouldn't have much of an effect. But the thing is, it's about building the habit, isn't it? It's not about the motivation. It's not about, because those things fluctuate so much, and it's about building those habits so that even when you're having a bad day, you're not motivated, or something goes wrong, you can then get yourself into the gym still, because that is just your rule. And actually, it's funny because from my personal experience too, when I was going to the gym 3 times a week, I actually found it so much harder to do those 3 sessions a week and actually commit to that than I have done since I've actually decided to go every single day. Like Christmas Day, New Year's Day,
Yeah.
I was in the
Yeah.
gym every single day, and as a rule, and that has actually become so much more easy because it's just not a negotiation with your brain anymore. So, absolutely.
Yeah, so I love that. It's not a negotiation with your brain. So, for example, I am an open water swimmer, and I love. So one of my things is to swim year round. And it's not that hard in Florida. It really never gets that cold. But let's say you want to do a cold shower
Mm.
every day. One of the ways we think about it is you want to be your own coach. So you become your coach and you say, okay, what's Louis need to do? He needs to go to the gym every day. Okay, great. Then so you make out your plan, and Monday to the I'm going to or I'm going to take a cold shower. Then you revert back to you. And now you're executing your coach's plan. You're not executing your plan. You really need to mentally think about it. You got to think, I was the coach, not me. And now I'm doing what my coach tells me to do. So it's not a negotiate. You can negotiate how long the cold shower will be, or what are you going to wear, or which bathroom you're going to use. I don't know, but the going into that cold water is not a negotiation.
It's gonna happen.
That's you complying. You're outsourcing that discipline. In general, especially for creative tasks, it's better to be internally motivated.
Mm.
But for sometimes, especially if we're going to start a task, and if it's a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit unpleasant, a little bit new, it's better just do what you're told. Like with kids, okay, you don't need to understand. You need to wear your seatbelt. I don't care. You never see an automobile accident in your life. Fine, good. I hope you never do. Doesn't matter. You got to wear your seatbelt. And then it becomes a habit.
So true. And yeah, I mean, for example, it's like if someone said I want to read a ton of books this year, like I've set this goal, New Year's resolution. It's that kind of time of the year. Everyone's got their resolutions, and
Yeah.
everyone's saying, yeah, I'm going to read 15, 30 books this year or something. And honestly, I don't think anyone's really going to achieve that off that motivation alone. I would actually say to people, read 1 page a day, and then in a week read 2 pages a day. Like we said, we
Sure.
need to build those habits. But you've got a gorgeous book set in the back there, so I've got to ask you then, so do you have a really good book recommendation for us to listen to? A secret weapon?
You mean besides my books?
Well,
Yeah, sure. I mean, it depends what you want. One of the books I'm reading right now is called Boys in the Boat. It's a story of Americans going to the Olympics in 1936 and beating a crew team that beats the Nazis in their home territory. It's a pretty inspiring book. Some goes-tos I always go back to: Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey,
ooh, great book.
Mindset by Carol Dweck, which talks about growth mindset. Any classics all the time.
Perfect.
Greek, Roman, whatever, Middle Ages, or interpretations of those
There you
are
go.
always good. The human, like sort of the human experience of life hasn't really changed that much.
Very good point
Surroundings
of
have.
view. Well, talking about your books, so I mean, this has been our four questions for today, David. But at the very end of the podcast, it's become the classic routine. I have a little moment that I love to call the shameless plug. So, David, feel free to promote anything that you're working on, your books. Where can people find your stuff? And yeah, just plug away. Take your time for it.
Yeah, well, first of all, my first book's called Turn the Ship Around. It's a story. It's a story of what happened on the submarine. It's um, Harvard Business Review meets Hunt for Red October. Someone described it as, but it's more than that. It's got some pretty specific things in terms of what we did that was different than everybody else, and ways that I had to rethink my all my leadership training. I have another book, which is Leadership as Language, where I talk about this legacy of our industrial age language and what we want to change it to. And on YouTube, I have a YouTube channel called Leadership Nudges, 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 Nudges. And these are very short, typically 60-second, 2-minute videos where I'm talking about very short things. Like, for example, never say, quote, good job, because that just means you don't really know what happened. It's just vague. And what you want to do instead of that.
There we go. Well, guys, yes. So David has a website, and obviously, like I said, the YouTube channel just then. I will make sure to have the links for that straight in the description or the captions wherever you're listening on. So definitely go take a look at that. But David, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today for the Talk4 podcast. Honestly, it has been an absolute pleasure and a true honor having you on. Thank you for your time.
Cheers. Take care.
Will do. Well, guys, thank you for listening. This has been episode 57. And if you'd like to listen to our past episodes, please do go have a look at our channel. And if you'd like to listen to our future ones too, then make sure to hit that subscribe button and spread some love by leaving a like and a comment. Signing off for now.